mechanical industry, if you think the car can run when the tire is punctured, but I'm not sure. You're not
I'm not focusing on respect. Why do you keep the respect? So you have your own objectives to achieve. So
Excellent question. Why do you need respect? Because that's where the problem that comes is, as man, I think someone put it beautifully. At every level, you need to make decisions. Decisions need to be respected.
no, it's a team has to decide.
The team has to decide what.
Whatever they think is best for the team and the product.
There are some scenarios the team cannot, and that's what we do.
The team is not mature.
No, there are some scenarios that some decisions cannot be left at an individual level. And those are the scenarios that I'll show you, which is where you as managers need to talk to your teams and handle them in an agile scenario because they are difficult. So bear with that thought for a second. And I'm not talking about whether you decide who picks the backlog. Sometimes the problem is the manager thinks he can assign backlog, which itself is a problem.
The thing is, managers should be technical or manager needs people should respect managers. So
I believe every individual needs to be respected. Every individual's value needs to be respected.
if you're saying if you don't do coding, then you will not be respected.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that some engineers perceive that to be a gap.
Okay. So that's
I'm not saying one or the other. I'm just saying.
Sorry. So when you said,
Looks like I touched a hot button.
so when you said the linked, whatever you call and the hash map, if you want to use a hash table or whatever it is, the difference between if the manager is not able to say, okay, you use this. I believe the team will be combination of PA, QA, and the dev, but manager need not to be a dev. And the responsibility of taking a decision of tech-related point, it will be a tech lead.
Okay, what is the responsibility of a manager in an information technology company? Is he supposed to be approving leaves, making sure that you get budget for training?
Not really.
See, I'm not telling you that are not important. I'm just telling you that how a guy who spent 4 years learning Java, C++, computer science, operating systems, databases, computer organizations, parallel computing, is going to come in and he's being told that here's this guy who's going to come in every 3 months or potentially monthly and tell you, I don't think your code is right. You will get misses and thus not get an increment. He's going to walk out of the room and say, guy doesn't know what difference between a linked list and a hash map. He's telling me my code is not right. If your dad tells you that you cannot drive on the right side of the road, well, just think from that perspective. But having said that, there is equal respect, like you said, for all types of functions. Coding is not that. The question is how do you show value? You don't always have to code. Can you show value? So the real issue is about value. In agile teams, it becomes more difficult. And taking his advice, not taking his advice, I will move to the next slide because it will touch more hot buttons. Okay, so these are 4 things which you could use, and so potentially, and I want you to remember these 4 things because this is what we'll talk about in the scenarios. I'm going to watch and I'll keep looking at my phone. So influence, we all know what it is. I won't spend much time. 90% of this room is managers. We all know influence. Tathagat is a great example where he talked about being an IC as a VP and influencing things. So we all know what it means. The guy on the left, intuition. When you know 2 people are driving in 2 different directions. We all know that, right? As managers, as individuals, even as scrum masters, as leads, whatever. You know that. So you have to know what is the intuition, whether it's technical or not technical. So these are skills. Intention. Now here's an interesting question I always ask. Think of that cheese as your what do you call, as the goal, the sprint goal or whatever. And the trap is potentially either estimation, it could be whatever. The mouse and the hat. So what is the manager? Is he the hat, the mouse? Is he the one providing the carrot? Which one is it?
Manager with the mouse.
Yeah, think about it. But often the manager doesn't get an opportunity to be the mouse in a scrum team because he's not the one executing and going towards the goal. Thus, while the manager wishes to be the mouse, mouse and has equal capability to be the mouse, going back to your question, he is often left to be the hat. And you only know the value of a helmet when you fall from a bike, right?
Tell me your pain area, why you came to this idea. So I think you have suffered somewhere. Now it's working. You have to share that now. Or start with sharing what are your idols, probably we can link. So yeah, so probably the context which you have worked, probably will be making sense. Yeah, so comes the things which have, yeah, so change your mind. You are so focused.
Okay, let's go to this problem. I'll switch a couple of slides. The first problem that I would like you to deal with in an agile context is, in an agile context, you're not assigning backlogs. You're not dealing with a scrum, with a scenario where in a waterfall context, you were able to basically go ahead and potentially ensure that you could assign things to people, make sure things are happening. You could potentially even give a favor to somebody by making sure that they have an aspiration, you have conversation. We talk about performance management. Okay. In an agile context, very often with the team picking backlogs, you may not have that. However, in any, whether it's a services company or a product company, you will have two scenarios. You will have people churning, which is very high. When people churn, the two things happen. One is they don't necessarily give as much output. Sometimes in the middle of the sprint, they may have resigned, they're not going to work. As a manager, because you are the one who potentially has to make that communication, right? That's not going to be done by the Scrum Master. Is there any company where a Scrum Master does a communication of a resignation? Probably not. There are probably. In which case, it might defeat Agile, where you often say that the Scrum Master should not have people management responsibilities. So that is an example of something where you will have a manager need to deal with it in an Agile context. In a normal waterfall context, what would have potentially happened is you would have had an ability to chunk off work, make sure that guy is not taking on, hold a transition, hold all that stuff. Sometimes resignations cannot be announced at the same point. They have to be announced at a certain point in order after you have protected all the other people from the impact. Now, in an agile world, now this leaves you with a peculiar problem where you cannot potentially influence up. So the solution that I have come across are potentially, A is you will probably have to take your product owner into confidence, saying that there has been a resignation. In terms of saying, take a backup, make a backup backlog. So you will have to somewhere introduce that to the product owner. So that's probably one thing. The second problem that you could have, because I will not dwell too long because there are only 3 people who seem to have needed to fire people. There are legal implications that if you have fired somebody for either performance reasons or any other reasons, you cannot say that you have fired that person. It is a breach of confidentiality. Thus, when the person leaves, you will have to be very careful as a manager in terms of how you project it to the team. Whether you cannot even potentially tell the Scrum Master, because it's again a breach of confidentiality. There are legal implications. So you will have to be very careful. In that case, the person can totally disconnect, can stop coming to office. He can potentially spread rumors about the team, which will lead to high number of one-on-ones, which will come in as a volume. So if anybody is interested in knowing how to handle that, you can speak to me offline probably. But in general, there's another very, very complicated scenario where in the agile world, your problems as a manager go up a lot. So that's what I call the separation anxiety. So this is one. So to put you the theme, these are things where you as managers can potentially, you're going to face this, whether you were facing this in waterfall, you will face this in agile, but it makes your life more difficult. In some cases, your value as managers, purely from a people manager perspective, is going to come in how you deal with these scenarios. The second,
I have a different point of view there. I think compared to waterfall, it's much easier for a manager to manage resignation or.
Excellent. Could you tell us how?
Because typically, we break the work one of the times.
Who is we?
We the agile team and the person agile, right? We have a yearly delivery and I come with resources longer term. Pulling out somebody has a model where
From an execution side, definitely it does. What you mean is you have not committed that person in order to. What I'm speaking is from a knowledge-based perspective. Typically, in a knowledge-based perspective, for example, someone talked about Cisco project running for 4 years. In that case, you would have to back up that knowledge. I agree from a delivery perspective, it's limited to this thing. So you're right in that context.
in terms of impact, I mean, projecting does higher in agile, and I don't think
The challenge in the execution it isn't. In a knowledge-based protection context, it's higher because you would have to think of this guy who's running a 3-year Cisco project who works on that particular routing software in 3 for that. If it's a waterfall, you could potentially just go ahead. You have control over what you assign. Here you may not have. The second one is again a tricky one. This is the me or the we appraisals. I think there were some questions about that, and I think there were really good answers and solutions. I think yes, there are. Do you appraise a team? Do you appraise the individual? How do you, in an agile context, as a manager, if you're leading 40-member project team, I assume you have to appraise them, right? At some point, you have bell curves. I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
So you have bell curves. There are 5 Scrum teams. Somebody has to be let go at some not let go, but somebody has to be encouraged to leave. And so the me or the we appraisal. If the team goal is met, does everybody have to be given an exceed? Or if the team goal is not met, does everybody have to be given a miss and so on? So some of the solutions. So these are some of the problems. I don't talk problems. As managers, you know them. We've always faced them. In an agile context, it becomes more difficult because you were talking about how does the appraisal system happen? Earlier, managers had a lot more visibility, control, assignment. You would potentially have something like status reports. Yeah, I mean, I've seen, if I go back 10 years, we were sending weekly status reports and all that stuff. In agile world, the solutions that have come across are, one is you could potentially think of doing the monthly appraisal kind of thing which is suggested from product owners. The second is you could experiment with potentially having Scrum members having each of their feedbacks visible to each other. A very, very interesting and risky move, but it could work. It does work in some companies. In our company, all peer feedback is visible to everybody else. If you need to have something confidential, you could mark it as confidential and give it to your manager, and then he'll anonymize it. So in an agile context, really good, excellent transparency mechanism. And I would encourage you to try it in experiments and see what happens. But again, the question is, and that's where you'll see this. You could also get, of course, sandbag in terms of people will say, everybody will say everybody's wonderful, and then what do you do? That's another. So that's where your role as a manager to coach people and how to give and accept feedback is itself a role in agile. Because remember, retrospectives are nothing more than feedback. So another interesting challenge in the agile context, you could think how do you leverage peer reviews, appraisals, or individual team? That's the second one.
So a Scrum Master is just another peer, or
okay, I'm not the agile process expert, but in my view, if I go back to the book definition, you will correct me if I'm wrong, is that a Scrum Master is a facilitator of the Scrum process. He is not a people manager, potentially may or may not take any backwards. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
So what you're saying, we should not solicit feedback from a Scrum Master?
You should, but he should be considered as a peer. But as a manager, what do you do when everybody thinks everybody is good? Or sometimes somebody may have a bias and say somebody has not done something good. How do you patternize it? Because you're going to have bell curves in life. I mean, there are very few companies which are like that.
No, but bell curve, it is particularly an American management thing. It is like if you go to European companies, they don't try to do this and say that 10% will be fired.
Oh, I'm not saying that they have to be fired, but somebody has to be given more money than the other guy.
Not necessarily. So it is just what we are used to. But that's okay. It's continue.
Okay. So having said that, so obviously whether you use a bell curve or not, you're still going to have to appraise people. You're going to have to tell somebody you're good or not good at something. And in that case, you have to make decisions. Often, whether you like it or not as a manager, you are the owner of that decision. The interesting thing in the Scrum thing is that people look up to you to communicate that information. The the third problem which is there, which I faced especially in the Scrum, it got which is called what I call as the extinction anxiety, which we had an example where in the middle of the sprint, what we were doing, we were asked that we need to stop working. We were asked to scrap that work. Here actually it becomes easier to deal with as a waterfall. In a waterfall you would have planned for like 8 or 9 months and then you have to scrap it. In this case, what we had a scenario was that after N sprints where we had done periodic deliverables in an earlier company, we were told we had to stop that. And this is where I would say that as a management challenge, actually Scrum helps you. Because then what happens is from an individual perspective, you can tell them, oh, you've done this much, this got potentially delivered as a shippable increment. You can now go ahead and do other things. But the only thing you have to probably remember even otherwise is that the basic tenets of management, which is in terms of what that person would need to do next, what they would potentially have to pick next. So the only suggestion I would have is in this context, we continue to run the sprints, not disband it. However, the product owner's role in the context of that product was not relevant. So we did some things like we did some innovation sprints, we did some hack sprints, we did sprint zero for products we didn't necessarily know. In a service context, we could potentially even look at improving the processes, or potentially even making some proposals in order to get more business in a service context. We could do that. So that's, however, the base people philosophy of the anxiety would still be there. Here's another problem I face. I'm not entirely sure if has anyone gone through a company which has got acquired, or have you acquired a company, or rather have you been acquired at any point? So about 6 or 7. So I won't spend that much time on it then because we don't have too many people. So in an agile context, if you're running a sprint team and potentially there is, so I ran about 3 sprint teams once in an earlier company where there was a rumor that we would get acquired for about 9 months. It was publicly known that potentially we would get acquired at any point. In this context, the only advice I could give you from an agile context is you have different teams which are they're shipping increments one after another, but because they are like in a waterfall, if you remember, you potentially have a 6-month period which you are going to ship out, and the impact there is very different. Here you have product managers who are saying, I won't take your increment because I'm not necessarily sure that whether there's a lot of uncertainty that is there in terms of the product. So the only things we did was we continued shipping. Even though there were rumors going on, we kept telling people that is my product going to be relevant in the new context or not. We continued giving that information to people. When the acquisition finally happened, it was a lot easier in order to maintain that same structure. Because what happens is that people might even wonder whether you will keep that structure or not keep that structure. So in an agile context, I would say this is another problem where managers can play a very, very important role.
Would you think it similarly if it was instead of acquisition, reorganization?
Great example. I think I think of that. That's a perfect example of what could happen. Your group and the other group is going to get merged. It's exactly the same kind of problem. So they'll tell you, should I even run the sprint? Should I not run the sprint? You will face exactly the same problems. The one nice thing I always heard, I remember this quote which said is, not all big fish are great white sharks. I read this somewhere, and it was came in a national, some of the shows. It said that if you look at that picture, right, actually that fish lives inside another fish's mouth. And there you have seen these crocodiles, right, where the birds go inside and sit there. It's a symbiotic relationship. So as long as you believe the relationship is symbiotic, and you as a manager have the greatest influence to tell the Scrum team that keep running on your own. Be that young CEO, I like that example which someone gave in the morning. Be that young CEO, run your own thing, and let us deal with the problems that will come.
Devashish, regarding the scenario number 4, which was extinction, oftentimes I have faced the problem where people come to me and say that this dashboard is basically getting made the 10th time, and the 10 iterations of the dashboard has happened in terms of code change or UI change, and everything looks different. So whatever work we have done is all gone. it got potentially shipped, but then I am not able to see that happening. It's kind of it keeps them down. How do you handle such?
They're worried that the same thing is happening over and over again.
And that their work is just getting gone somewhere.
Yeah, so that's just, while it's a product owner type question, whether you built the right product or built it at the right time, kind of thing, from a motivation perspective, the only suggestion I could give is you would probably have to talk to them and see whether, if it's an emotional connect to that earlier product, you would have to potentially say that, hey, what are you transferring from that earlier product to new? So it's a very good example. I'll tell you, I have a slide later, which is changing technology tracks. I had this team which is working on Windows, and we found the product came to us and said, hey, we have a market in Linux, but all you Windows guys have to work on Linux. And you know how, they're totally two different dichotomies. Linux guys are not Windows guys, and Windows guys are not Linux guys. So the only thing you can tell is, what is your transferable skill? How does it benefit your career? You have to move the conversation around that instead of the product which got killed, because all he is actually asking is if I go to this new thing, will I be valued equally? So as long as you can convey that, you might have a better chance. If he's really stuck to that product, then I don't know the chances. The next one is this, what I call a xenophobia. Now in a Scrum team, we had this, I written a paper on this, I had this very unique scenario about 4 years back. I had part of the team in Waterfall and part of the team in Scrum. This was a nightmare because, and problem was, it was a partner team who we had no control over, and they said we will follow Waterfall, and so we, and that's what it was. So when they came introduced and combined to us, we had a process problem, which was that we had people who followed different processes at different cycles, and we had a people problem, which means people did not believe in the philosophy of assigning backlogs, running sprints, doing things quickly, retrospective, follow that problem. So that's a unique case, but in a general scenario, you would also have, like, especially in the, like somebody talked about Netherlands and India, you would have cultural differences in sprint teams, when to hold stand-ups. Do I hold a stand-up in the morning or the afternoon? The guy in Netherlands potentially will not work beyond certain time, whereas there are some cultures which will work at different time. In an agile world, you as a manager often know things will break down when you look at the intuition part, and you have to be really careful in terms of how do you introduce those processes. The one problem we face is when we have two different cultures, they may come up with their own processes. How do you merge those in? So again, as a manager, you will often have to influence those whether you want to or not, because that is going to bite back to you when people will say that I am either being overworked or underworked, or potentially it could lead to attrition. So that's in a waterfall model. You may still face the same problems, but because you've given the control to the Scrum team to decide many of the things, here is where the influence part comes in. You can't step in and say, I'm the manager, this is when it's going to happen. Or something like that. Maybe in Waterfall you could have said it directly, but you could have influenced it a little more. When you work with this team in Netherlands, how do you decide the stand-up times and stuff?
We take a common time, mostly in the afternoon, 2 o'clock IST.
Okay, it works well because it's Europe. It does not work well if it's North America. We have North American, Cisco is probably North American. So you potentially have stand-up. I have a sprint team, and this one person is here and the rest are there. There's a lot of problem, and sometimes you have to find that common time. This is another problem which often happens as a manager. You sometimes, you are the biggest, you face the biggest impact sometimes on this in terms of, because whether you like it or not, you are often